So this is super fun today. I get to walk you through a song that I wrote back in January. You can see up here at the top it's titled January Track 4 because in January I was writing about 5 or 6 tracks and I was just titling them track 1, 2, 3, 4. Imagine, I had never written a deep house track yet, so I was like, I'm going to try to do this, keep it simple. So I'm going to walk y'all through, where I get some of the samples that I use, what was sample versus me creating it, because transparency is going to be, the most revealing. I think in songs that I have not used samples and gone just more organic, let me try to make it, I have, found a little bit less success. I like the learning of the, through delivering that end project, but with the organic piece, trying to create something from scratch. But sometimes the sample, if you can resample it and make it, yours, it can fit and work into your favor for finishing songs and, getting stuff out there. So first we're going to jump into this Imagine song. Oh, by the way, I picked this one because Imagine right now is released in March and it's at 40,000 streams, and in the past 28 days we're at almost 20,000, and I have not been pushing this song anymore. Like, it did well, got on its playlist, and it's on the radio and on Spotify radio, and it's making its way to other playlists. So it's the only reason I'm going into this one, and I think because I am running a podcast about producing and finding balance in EDM, let's find a little balance together and learn how I wrote this song. Alright, so let's learn something today. Jumping in, I think I'll just go into how I write. I start with my kick, and I always put my bass line in red and my hats and kicks and everything in orange for some reason. My kick, the pattern that we used in this one, I will move myself down here and I'll show you the pattern that I used in here. We'll zip it in. What I did was on every second bar, before the second bar ended, I just put a little double kick in there. And one thing I didn't do in here that I think I should do on every other time I do a double kick is, these things called the velocity, which is these little red ticks at the bottom that you can control, and you got, it's how you can implement groove a little bit more in your tracks. I think that would have done a little bit better for this one. I'll open up the cap and hats because I typically, I'll just write like an 8-bar, 16-bar loop. I'll keep myself there. I'm just like working in this space for that time period until I'm, ready to, say, hey, I have enough to start arranging. But until you get a solid groove and you get something good, you don't want to move forward. Otherwise, you could get it pointed to your track and you're like, shoot, man, I just used all this time going over here. Where was I before? Oh man, I didn't save anything. So one thing, save always, and first get down a really solid 8 to 16 bar loop. So I moved to my claps typically, and the claps, you can see that here that I just gave it a transition of 4, I believe that's 8s. What is that? Are these 8s? Yeah, 8th notes. I programmed those in there for the MIDI to just transition. Did I do anything different for this clap? You see, I didn't do it on this clap, but you can see on this clap what I did was I actually shortened the MIDI from, I guess, what are these, 16ths? Are these little 16ths? I think they are. Yeah, I know they're 8s, right? 8th notes. So I basically shortened the quarter note of the clap to a 8th note of the clap. So what that does is it's going to cut off some of this stuff, which I use sampler, and you can see I put a program to clap into the sampler, which is an Instruments and Ableton sampler right there. I like using it more than Simpler, but sampler is really good. And when I did that, did I touch any of these? No, I didn't. One thing you can point out when you work with claps and hats and stuff with the high end, if you're going to layer them, try to see how much you're sustaining one over the other, or how much decay, or maybe you need, if one's having a higher transient and the other one has a higher transient, maybe shave off the attack, bring that attack up a little bit on one of them. All these little things create, more composition and fitness of the mix. I would have to say a fitness of the mix. I like that. One thing I was, trying to get to though on this clap was that I shortened it, and what that does is it'll add a little bit of groove. It'll be like k, and then ka, k, ka, k, and so it's like it's short, and then so it adds that k, ka, k, ka, k. You know what I'm saying? So I love to do that with claps and stuff. Did I put any hats in the beginning? No, I didn't. We can bounce over to where I did bring in the hats. Rides, claps, fills. Let's zoom out a little bit. Where did I use my hats more? Oh, okay. Let's see here. So it looks like I put my hats all the way down here. We did have hats going. So did we do anything with the hats? I used this one that had, pretty good structure to it. Right here we'll hear this. It's just really nice high end, right? I mean, very, very nice. That was a Noizu clap that I really like. Noizu has a great pack that I would use time to time. That is that sound right there. The other hat that I was using, which one that you really pick up in this mix and you pick up in the song holistic throughout the whole thing, or it's really a defining moment. You're like, you start to feel, you hear this, and then the other hat comes in, and then yeah, here's the other one. You see, it has that little crunch. It's and it's like the if you're actually playing, it gives it more realness. Like if you're playing that closed hat, that hat, it rattles a little bit at the end, right? Well, it's really what it's kind of hitting and implementing, a little bit more realness, and that's why I liked this sample specifically. You can see it has this little. It almost looks like the size of a shaker. Like this is a waveform. Like that's like a hat, and it's really somebody. I mean, it's a little longer, it's a little fatter, and then the shaker's a little. It's a little smaller. You'll see that, but that added really good groove. You hear them together, and then you hear them in the mix. So one thing to point out here, you'll see that I used a 16 bars, that's 16 bars to do my kind of intro, and once I got to 16 bars, I decided to crash it down for 8 bars and build it up for 16 bars. No, that's 16 plus another 8, 24 bars. But I mean, the build was 16, and then I did a break, and then 8 bars to kind of, and this was like kind of a deep house melodic kind of techno. I was going for melodic techno at first, but then the synths that I used were a little bit more deep house oriented. But, in this 8 bar break, that's, where you can build that. You're building tension for 16 bars, and some people just like to drop it right there. In the melodic techno realm, they really kind of build, wash out, a little something, a little another something, a little lower, maybe a little higher, a little pop, 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 and then introduction to really dropping it to probably a rolling bass line. Well, in this song, it's a rolling bass line, but they're giving the space gives it tension. So you've built tension to drop it, but and it is honestly controversial because when you submit for feedbacks, I use kick and bass. I've used a couple different schools over the past 5 years, but you submit that feedback and it can be here or there. So just gotta watch out for that. Let's move into a little bit. You can hear this bass line. I typically when I have that bass, I used wavetable for this, and wavetable for this bass line, you want to turn that sub on once you get to the drop, but take it out when you're, working in your intro to build field, because you really want that sub to be coming through in mono and pumping once, and there's a realization that the drop is here, the breakdown, I'm gonna get down, this is where I start to shuffle, but then that, you're starting to wait for the high ends a little bit, clap so you can have some direction of where to dance. But in the beginning, you just want that direction and where to dance and a little bit of groove, and you want to introduce the feel of the bass line. That's why what I do, you can see here what I've done with the, let's re-enable that. I've cut the up to like 100 and maybe 50 frequencies for the intro, and then I drop it down to its 28 so it can have, in this one, in my rolling bass lines, and not every song's the same, because I write tech house and I write the melodic stuff. When you write a melodic house, like a rolling bass line, you want to, you don't want the whole end. When I say that, when you write some of these tech house songs, the, bass line can look like this, and if, for my listeners that can't see this right now, but those who, great, this is going on YouTube, going on Spotify, you can see it visually. For those that are just audio listeners, what I'm doing is, if you know the EQ field, you producers, some of the tech house, you want to, with your kick, maybe you don't even cut your kick. Some people cut their kick at 35 hertz or 45, and some people don't do that side, that shoulder right there where they cut it. Or they what's that, low pass it. I guess that'd be high pass. So one thing that you do in this rolling bass line with melodic is I've heard a lot of different things, but I like to cut it. They say you cut it at 40, cut it at 22. What I did is I went down to 22. I'm going to re-enable this so you can see I cut it down, or 28 frequencies. So because I still wanted, there was energy in that 20 frequencies, but what I didn't want is the energy, the hertz, the stuff coming from in here. In tech house songs and in the kicks sometimes too, you don't want to block that off. In this, like, if you leave that room for the low end of your kick, it'll just feel better. Instead of this clashing with the kick. Of course you're sidechaining it and giving it room, but there's the right amount of control, I want to say, to the bass line when you cut it, a rolling one at 20 to 40 frequencies. And I think in this song, it looks like I just duplicated this, the bass line. But what I do when I do that, I think I do that so I can saturate it, overdrive it. Is it at a different octave too? No, it's at the same octave. I think I wanted to keep it there, but I think I EQ'd it, a little bit higher. So I'll be focusing on creating, when you saturate things, you create harmonics. So I wanted to, create more harmonics in that, towards, on the right hand of the frequency spectrum from like, 200 and up, but after you overdrive, throw it overdrive, I think I put another EQ on it. I was just playing with, how it sounded in correlation to this one. You can hear this. We'll just do this for the drop area. You maybe or maybe not hear that. And that's really set, the first one, the first bass line, the same bass line. I put less saturation on it. I think I just put actually no saturator on that one. That is the one that I'm focusing on being the most predominant. But when I made this one, I wanted to, create some, how we're seeing this right here? We're seeing this, maybe I do this and we'll get some span so I can show you. But if we're looking at this, see how this is, it's coming up like right here at like, I don't know, and like negative 39, what is this in dB? We got negative 41 dB. Okay, that's not being so explanatory. But what I'm trying to say is that this one, if we see it on here, it is pushing a lot of low end, and when you mix it with this one down below, sounds a little bit crazy. The thing is, when I just did this, it sounds really clean, right? And I wanted to, and with, if I take out the grungy one, because here's the grungy one, right? Exactly. I honestly forgot that I even did that. I thought, because this guy, the clean one, is all I hear in the mix. But, you know, when there was room for that craziness, so to say, that stereo information, that I kind of like really lowered the level of it. I lowered the dB by like half of, 100%. I lowered it 100% from -6 to -12, and that's what this guy is. It sounds like, it honestly sounds terrible by itself, but in context to the mix, it gave it some good information to deal with. So I'll turn that back on. And then, we can see how I created the separation with the break. Gosh, I can't. Every time I hear that drop, I love the floating feeling that I get because we've created this tension here. Let's go into these synths real quick. So this synth right here, this was sample selection that on 100%, what you need to do when you set up a song is like look at the current project. What I did here was I separated a percussion, synths, vocals, and there's some other stuff. I think I got a little disorganized, but a lot of sample selection really carried me home. On top of, you gotta be a good producer, right? You gotta have the right kick and bass. You gotta do the right mix. Things have to be compressed right. You have to understand compression, understand the sidechaining. What is sidechaining? If you don't know, sidechaining is literally taking frequencies that are going at the same area in this EQ, in this frequency realm, and you are trying to get one to recognize the other and duck to it. So a lot of sidechaining terminology, they'll say put the sidechain on your bass or your kick so it doesn't conflict with your bass or your subline, so it doesn't conflict with your kick. All the time. You have to sidechain everything to your kick. Not one thing. Do not let one thing not be sidechained to your kick. Otherwise, and that just maybe goes for dance music, but you have to do it. So you can see right here, just a quick sidechain, not a tutorial, but one thing to note in a nutshell is all you're dealing with is this this ratio right here. Sometimes you can knock it up to infinite, but 2-to-1 ratio is a great one. The release, you want that anywhere from 10 to 30 milliseconds, and you want that threshold. I pump it down to about -23, and it works for me. Sometimes it's a little much. The higher you go in the threshold, the less of the ducking you'll hear. The more the threshold, the more you're compressing it, the more ducking it's doing. You can see it in here, more visual. This one guy that you just saw, that's how much it's ducking to the kick that's punching through. Quick insight there. So you want to use that if you don't know anything about sidechaining, do that, or go and get an LFO tool. LFO tool by Xfer, Xfer, Xfer. That tool, or Nicky Romero has Kickstart. That's a wonderful sidechain tool, highly used. But there's also Bassclef. Bassclef has a wonderful $9. $9. He has a little suite of packages from the washout tool to the the presets. I know it's in the user library, presets. His whole little preset, $9. He has the fadeaway, the easy filter, easy compressor, easy washout, split sidechain. There's so many tools to understand sidechain. I remember 5 years ago, was writing first track, and I had no idea, like, what everyone says. Somebody said, I know what it is now, but that I remember when I heard sidechain, and then I heard people in dubstep, they were saying, yeah, there's this, you create a ghost channel, so you have a ghost sidechain, you can route everything to that. And then I just found out there were tools about sidechain. I saw this one tutorial that showed me about the compression and this gain in and out, and what you have to sidechain audio, link this audio to the kick. All right, so I understand the directional flow of what I'm ducking. So everybody learns in their own pace, but I hope I can give every little bit that helped me as I'm explaining this track along the way, because these little things are the little things that gave me just enough over the past till now, that I wrote this track in 3 hours. I sat down, I wrote this track, I moved from the kick to the claps to the hats. All right, but I did do one thing before I started that 3-hour timer, and it was I went to Splice and I got the synths that I wanted to work with. So from there, I knew the rest. So here's a little bit more of the synths. Here's what this one sounds like. Of course, it had a lot of stuff coming in, so at the 200 frequency realm, so I definitely wanted to boost that a bit. I curved it EQ-wise around 3K. I think 3K is like where the frequency of babies crying, so I always like to duck just a little bit right there. It was coming through too, a little bit. If you can, I think, yeah, a lot of that right there. I don't think I did any crazy processing on it. I just used some delay. I put my EQ, compressor, what's my DJM filter doing? I have no idea if it's even doing anything. Oh, it kind of curves off towards the end because there was some information that was trailing. What other synth is right here? This one is really cool. It's the drop one. Never mind. That was, I think I cut it and duplicated it and used a little bit of this filter, I think, every time. Yeah, you see it here. I wonder. Yeah, so you can hear the filtering. The reverb's going a little crazy. I think I wish I would have done something a little bit better with that one. As far as the reverb, goes, it was a little need to be tamed more. I've learned. You learn more after every track. It's been 5 months since January. We're in June, and what am I doing every single day, every single week? Learning a little bit of something new. And what do you get to do when you learn something new? You get to go apply it, and it's only up to you. If you're excited, it makes your life better, you want to do it, go and lay something down and just keep learning and keep doing. Find that balance you need to be a songwriter, be a producer, because we can confidently, after you write and you go through 5 years, I think it takes 5 years. You do 5 years of something consistently, you can say that's what you do. Are you good at it? I hope at that time, but you consistently done something to where you 5 years ago, like, I definitely couldn't call myself a producer. No, I'm not a huge, big studio producer. I got that bedroom producer mindset with a headliner type of studio. I can walk up into any studio and I have Ableton. I know how to get whatever vocalist hooked up. We can write a song. Of course, and every studio has an audio engineer, has a sound tech or somebody that can set up your stuff. As a producer, if you want to call yourself a producer, write records. Have records that have cohesive grooves, melodies, meaningful vocals, and delivers a feeling. Your feeling that you deliver in music is your message. I think that feeling is way more than words. Of course, you feel the words through the music because it's an auditory experience along with the whole comprehension of what they're saying, and that's why there's so many big songs that they could be singing the song with the there and then they drop it and they just go to melody, and then you're singing those lyrics because they sound like what is supposed to be said. It's like the words come from the feeling of the music. Sometimes it's the other way around. You lay the vocals down and you try to get the feeling. There's already so much richness and warmth or some nice harmonic in that voice that sparks an idea to go find the right synth, piano, lay that idea, and kind of harmonize. If you can create harmony, you can create groove, you can create a little bit of a song patch to some sort of lyric, some catch, hook. It's the rest is up to you and your interpretation of the dance floor. And one, you gotta be a producer. Two, love the culture and be present in the culture so you can add to the culture, add to the scene and all of the EDM that's out there. And three, be the most transparent you can ever be with what you are determining that you want to present. What's non-negotiable in the frequency realm, and then what do you want to present as far as your elements in the mix? And that's awareness of yourself and awareness of what's out there, so that you can not, create something that, is too off grid. There is off grid and it's good. Get out there, be funky, be weird. But if it's not produced, if things are just not sonically sounding right, or you've gone too off the cliff and it's almost too off grid. Like, there is good sound music in it, and then there's not. But then there's, I don't know. Honestly, take that back. There's so many realms and people that are listening to dubstep or rhythm or trance all the time, or techno, hard techno, melodic. People listen to tropical house all the time. Our brains are, processors of all these frequencies around them. If we're just producers and that's why I chose house, because I like the frequency and the, personality of house and techno music. I didn't say dark techno because it's almost scary. I feel like I'm in a hell house when I listen to dark techno. But I like a groovy type of trance, and if I can just fall somewhere in a groovy trance that my mind can catch and then get to grooving, I've created that feeling that I want to give you. And this, I wanted you to feel like you're floating. So a little bit more on these synths and why and how I got you to feel like you're floating. Yeah, let's go right here. Let's look at this build a little bit and this synth right here. It's very wide. And so that just sounded, I loved that when I heard it. I was like, that's gonna be my delivery. That is gonna bring us into the deep end that I wanted to bring us in. You see, I introduce you, and then I like to do this about 16 bars in. After I've written out the dance, I've introduced the groove, or maybe just the hi-hat. I get down and I bring back that message, the cohesiveness of the song. And that goes into arrangement. Really good thing to take away from there. But let's hear it in context of the mix. Alright, one thing I love hearing it every time. It's somewhere in my percussion. This wonderful, I know that I wanted some, like, just a drum hit, like a drum sticks hitting together, and I wanted it to be echoed. I pictured it being reverbed out, and and I wanted it one right before the drop, and I wanted to give a little bit of, like, I could just picture a drummer, like, I wish, honestly, I had a mic up there when I played this song and I just had two drumsticks so I could do pa and have my delay effect on or something. Because that's like the liveness and you're going up. Alright, click, click. You're going higher. Click, click. Let's hear it in the context. Here's it by itself. I almost thought I was going to have those two on the drop, like right before the drop, like a quarter note before or something, or 2 quarter notes before, but I I decided to just do 1 at the drop and do 2 as it progressed because it sounded nice. So let's hear it in the context of the mix. It's coming up. So I loved what I was thinking was with this crash right here. I did 3 crashes right here, and you can hear them as it is click click, and then it's the FX is bringing us up with the sweep is rising, and the drum build is about to stop. By the way, very washed out drum build. I typically don't do that, but this one, it just felt right. Like we're floating, right? We're trying to wash and ride the wave of this, this deep end that we're about to imagine going into. Imagine breaking away and dropping the whatever weights that, like, we want to go into the deep end in life, but we don't want weights when we're diving down there, because we want to have, the ability to go and explore the deep, but not get dragged down, because the deep end, good Lord, God bless, it is a beautiful place. It is where risk taking exists, big creatives and who have been successful in the world. Let's just, like, the big developers, inventors, anybody who has done something that is added to, the development of society or the development of people and culture. We need to be able to go into the deep end without weights on us. And that's what every window right here of my click click, it's like one step, click click, let's get those chains away. Click click, alright, I'm going 1 notch higher. Click click, we're going 1 notch higher. And right before, we go 1 notch higher and get into that, we have 3 crashes right here, and I go 1 type, 2 types, 3 types, and they're all layered decently. I should have, as I said before, I should have done what I suggested. I always should, they just sounded right together, so I didn't really have to do too much shaping right here, thankfully. But the last thing, as far as the synths goes, I did some little chopping right here of some sort. Yeah, I really like the move. I don't know if I introduced that ever again in this song. Oh, I did. Right in the drop, A part 2. Okay. Yeah, you see, you have to do that, right? They're dancing with each other. Like, 1, I've introduced you. Now we're breaking down. You can hear. I wonder if you can hear that. Can you imagine flaming? And it's hard. I did put it low because I think it felt right, and I didn't want it to clash at all. So, let's go here. What is this guy? Wow, that's embarrassing. I didn't put anything on that one at all. No EQ. Completely must have missed that. That's wild. This other synth. Yeah, that one. I remember that one sounded so cool. I love the kind of the low end, but then that mid range, that like boing, and it kind of opened up. Almost sounded like a ship that was messed up or something, but had a lot of strength behind it. Super saturated, sounded cool. What is this one? Did I show you all this one? What is this? It's nice. I really like this one. I definitely put some reverb, BC Valhallas on there, just the default. little delay. I decided to cut down. I reduced the gain on and shelved the high end on that one, so we could, you know, not be overwhelmed and clash with all the other stuff that's going. Because you got this synth here going too at the same time, you know, and that's very wide. I mean, you got, yeah, I mean that's really wide, and I wanted space for that. And we also have these up here, give me a little lush. So I got lush, little wider, little piercing, and that's why I had to cut that shelf down a little bit. And then this one right here is, I only put it right before we broke. Alright, super cool, super cool. One thing before I move on to this like vocal area, I wanted to point out that how I get this guy to do this with wavetable. I program these with 16ths. I control the velocity on this one. I decided to do 1/16 up, 1/16 down. Sometimes I like to really create different, you can create all different types of roll-ins with this, you know, concept of controlling the velocities. It's just which ones you want to control. So one technique you could do like this, and we do 2 down and 2 up, but I did 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, 1 up. I did that type of rolling bass line. Another one I use in a lot of my other tracks too is 2 down, 1 up, and then I just really, not anything specific like velocity. You can see down here in the bottom it's at 78. I mean, really something that sounds really drastic is anywhere at like 50 and below. You can really start to hear the difference in the velocity. But yeah, so for this one, I did that. And jumping out of the MIDI into the wavetable, I had 2 oscillators. One I put at it looks like it's kind of a saw wave almost. It's not square, more saw. And then the second oscillator was another saw, as it looks like. And what it does to get to flat, if you can see here, this little frequency thing, the little filter right here, the filter's whipping like that, right? That filter is basically, the way it's whipping like that, you can compare it to like Serum. Serum has the little blue knot. You can put something on, you know, you can put the velocity, you can put an LFO, you can put the envelope, any of those on the filter on Serum's filter. That little blue line that comes up and you get to control left, right, you know, how much of that. That's basically what this is doing right here, and it's pumping, it's reacting. And the way you get it to react is, by the way, I have this at 30% over here in the bottom right hand corner of the wavetable. I'm only applying this matrix, all of these effects at 30%. But the most important thing here is with the frequency one on the envelope, and me pushing that up to 64, and that's what's creating that pump. So if we look at this and say if I say no frequency, but then I bring it up, it's giving that relationship. So it knows that it wants to be ducking, not ducking, that's not the right word, but, you know, responding, and working the response to bring the frequency, you know, filter frequency in, bring it out, bring it in, bring it out. And the envelope that I've mapped it to, that envelope 2, you can see that I've really controlled this decay time and the attack. And I didn't want to go decay too much, but I wanted to create this pluck, kind of like almost very concentrated type of, you know, directed bass. So you can see the amps kind of add amplification. You have in synthesis, you really have your amplifier, your synthesis, and your LFO. Because how you're gonna these are all shapes, basically shapes that you're letting information out. And if you really understand amplification, your envelopes, and then more, what you can even apply the different shaped LFOs to things. You get the basis of sound synthesis, and you can create some cool stuff. Alright, so that was the bass line. Let's move to the vocals, the last one. These are pretty simple vocals. I think right here I did...
Can you imagine?
It literally is, can you imagine, and what if it was all a dream? And I used those two vocals and wrote the song around that. I'm trying to see what this guy was. Oh yeah, kind of. It was a nice loop. I didn't really cut it up at all. It was good as is. I think when I did my vocals though, on all vocals, I like to use bit presser. I used to like Buster, and this one's a really cool Buster X64. I like to just get that threshold at, oh wow, that's high. I typically do it at like 4, but apparently it was at like 1 dB. And I turn the makeup a little bit, the bright channel as well. Bright channel, it sounds real, it cuts through really well when you push it this way. It almost like, if you do it the other way, it's almost like it's ducking things a little bit and kind of like rounding things off instead of cutting through. So that's different directions. I was wanting to cut through a little bit. I think on the vocal, I wonder if I put it on this one or not. I didn't. Interesting. Maybe I just didn't have it at the time. Well, ModeStep has a wonderful plugin that, it's more of a preset, I would have to say actually, that I've used, I picked up. I'm sure if you look it up, it would be super useful. But ModeStep Vocal Pack, I'm just going to click on here so you can see what it looks like. Let's look at right there, ModeStep. ModeStep, I like to put this on like all my vocals really, but it has a gain, gate, compressor, OTT, reverb, reverb time, delay and delay feedback. I like to crank that reverb time way down and not really use that because I like to not, mix this reverb with another reverb. Delay feedback can be very obnoxious sometimes, like to peel that back. And the gain is really, you're going to help with presence. Gating, you're going to help a little bit with separation of things. So I really like the ModeStep Vocal Pack. ModeStep. Alright, well, I think I've really kind of walked you through all of the elements, how I wrote the song, some cool things that hopefully you learned along the way. I will play this song out all the way through to wrap this up today, but let's see if there's, the last thing I'll give you since I'm opening it up is arrangement. The way, and I talked about it a little bit before, but for 16 bars, we basically have a 48 bar intro. And the way the 48 bar intro is broken up is into two 16 bar areas. One 16 bar is just very simple, creating the percussion groove of the track. I start to introduce some synths for another 16 bars. As I build it, I introduce that build percussion. And then there's the settles. I need to create that responding kind of, lingering synth that we're going to bring back at some time. And that's what I do at so I have 16 and then another 16 and then 16 and then 24. I build for 20. I crash and build. Intro for 16. Crash for 8. I build for 16. I crash for another 8, and then I drop at 48. The 48th bar. The drop goes in two 16 bar areas. The first 16 bars I call it drop 1, and then I transition it into drop 2, in those drops, if we open up the synths, you can really see some of the arrangement. There's one pattern in the first 16 bars. The break synth right before the drop, that gets introduced again in the second 8 bar of the 16 bar part 2. That's when I introduce, like, I've given my drop, alright, I actually start responding with this synth right here, and you see it in another channel, and I bring, basically, I have the synth that was going all the way up to the drop, that I introduced it at the build, and I used that build synth for in the first first 16 bars of the drop. It goes away for the second 16 bars. The second synth I used in my build, I introduced that in the second 8 bars of my first 16 bar part of the drop. So that's part A, second 8 bars, I introduced that one that was in the build. So we have a little bit of playing around here, right? I need to see which one felt right. So we have synth 1, synth 2, and synth 3 here in the middle was used, and I need to figure out when I was going to introduce them again. So yeah, part 2, I used this third one that I also used in the pre-drop little break section. So when you do that, you really create this kind of story, and they need to work with each other, of course. And those are just 3 that I described. Of course, I have some stabs and some like directional things that I chose 2 that I really liked, and I played back and forth with those to create some call and response. All right, so please do give me any shout outs, any questions or anything. This was fun. I'm going to play the song all the way through, and hopefully you enjoy today. Super fun, super fun. One last thing I want to show you if you're still around. Two things that I heard that in this thing that I do think that are very unique to this song that I like to do. This is these little claps right here's a clap fill. And sometimes you want those in tech house to be a little bit more, present, so you really are, you hear that, offset clap sometimes, or you just hear those little clap fills. This one, I wanted, since it was deep and everything was very floaty, I wanted to put a lot of reverb on that. So reverb is very helpful with those claps, doing those. As far as area-wise, if you're doing a 16 bar right here, right before the second 16 bars. Oh shoot, that's an 8 actually. If you have 8 bars, do it on the 4th quarter note of the last 8 bar. And into, your second set of 8 bar, and it's a good, transition. It kind of keeps the listener with you right there. Other thing I like to do, that I did, and I haven't done it in tracks in a while, is in the mid, area right after your bass line, you have to, oh, I got you. I'll wrap it up, baby. I'll wrap it up, Charlie. This is my dog. My sister's dog. Beautiful dog. But what I did right here, and I think I liked it, I did it with the, either on here, oh yeah, you can hear this with the EQ. I decided to roll it in, so in context of song, we have, oh, let me open that up. And you can see it down here, yeah. And we're rolling in. Yeah, so that was the last part that I wanted to show you on that. Thank you so much for watching. Donpairion presented, my imagined song, and thank you for listening. This is PH7 Records, Finding Balance in EDM.